Hear what I'm smart. And sometimes I'm just listening in the room and I'm like, well, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Oh, well, we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to a conversation with, I am your humble host, Floyd Marshall Jr., and I am joined today by someone that I highly respect. This brother is so dope when it comes to the sci-fi uh, genre in filmmaking, visual effects, AI, Chat GPT, editing, cinematography, you name it, this man does it. I'm just going to read you a small snippet of what Mr. Darion D'Anjou, did I get that right?
D'Anjou.
Darion
That's
D'Anjou. I'm
it.
just going to give you a
That's
small
it.
snippet of what this brother does. Darion D'Anjou. Now, it says here he's an up and coming, but this brother has arrived. Award winning director based in Atlanta, Georgia, who focuses on short and feature length narrative films. Darion's science fiction film, short film Hop, which I watched today, which was crazy. We got to talk about that. Was a finalist at the Atlanta Sci Fi Film Festival, and his recent science fiction short film Pony, another phenomenal film, won 7 out of 11 awards at the Constellation Film Festival in Atlanta, including Best Picture, Best Direction, Best Cinematography, and Best Editing. Pony screened as an official selection of Gentleman Jack's Reel to Reel, hosted by Omari Hardwick, Bronlin's Film Festival, Atlanta Sci-Fi Film Festival, Berlin Sci-Fi Film Festival, and it continues its momentum on the festival circuit. Darian's one take horror short film Mommy has screened in theaters to rave reception. Another dope ass film, and has generated, now it says here, over 500,000, but ladies and gentlemen, that number has been exceeded. This film has over 1 million views on YouTube, and we got to get into that about the monetizing of your YouTube channel.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
Darian is open to opportunities to write and or direct feature length projects based on the stories introduced by his proven short films, such as Pony, Hop, or Mommy, or working on completely new projects, especially in the science fiction, action, horror, and thriller genres. I'm going to repeat something really quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Darian is open to opportunities to write, direct, and or direct feature length projects. Now, the reason that I restated that is, if you are about to embark on a film and you are in the Atlanta area, or if your budget is such that you can actually fly somebody out, then this is a gentleman that you need to contact to get on your film. I'm very serious about that. If your budget allows for it, this is someone that you definitely need on your product, or on your product and your project. But Monica on the mic says hi. Hi, Monica. Thank you so much for joining us. Darian,
Hey.
welcome to a conversation with Sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me on, man. Yeah, it's fun to
Oh,
be here.
oh yeah, this is definitely a no-brainer. I wanted to have you on quite some time ago, but you are one of the hardest people to get in touch with, because you know what, you're always moving, and that's a good thing, because you're always working. So when a couple of weeks ago I had an opportunity, we were on the same stage together. I said, well, you know what, let me message him right now while he's actually paying attention, and I can get him on, and I'm so happy
That was
to
good.
have
You
you on
did
the
a good
show.
job on that because it was great timing because it's like the thing is, things. It's good to be busy, right? It's like if
Yes.
if nobody's calling you, nobody's messaging you, maybe something's not right. I mean, not all is well in Pleasantville. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's okay. I feel fortunate.
But that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So we're going to get into this because I know people are really interested in hearing, what it is that you do. So how did you get started in the business? How did that happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was one of these folks who I was afraid to get into the business in the early part of my life
Mm,
because I didn't really come from a culture that understood that film was like a viable way of earning money. With my parents are British Guyana, my father, and Jamaica, my mother, and those are not really countries, at least at the time, what you could be in an entertainment industry in any reliable way. You see what I'm saying? So it's not something to say that they just didn't have the, have the foresight, but it's more they're going off of their reality, right? Which is like, how many directors really are able to, like, pay their bills on a full-time basis who are exclusively in Jamaica? It's not many. You could probably count them on a couple hands. So that wasn't, even though they saw that I was really busy with the stuff when I was young, it wasn't something that they would have ever encouraged as like, oh, you can actually go into that path. So I did end up going to business school, and I ended up working in the software industry as a consultant for the first career. But all the while I was writing scripts, taking classes, going to art and animation school, and doing everything I could do on the side, you know what I'm saying, to keep those creative juices flowing. And at some point, I had enough people coming at me, asking me for projects, hiring me to do different things, that I was like, you know what? What's it going to take to go ahead and transition this thing to full time? So that was about, let's say, 5 years ago that transition happened.
Okay. So I want to go back to your high school days for a second, because I was listening to an interview that you had done previously, and you were speaking about how you write, and the English teacher that basically put you on the path to how you're writing now. And I can't remember the gentleman's name, but I thought that story was so interesting, because oftentimes it's that one person that puts you on a trajectory, and years later you're like, wow, that was the point. So can you talk about I can't remember the gentleman's name, but you mentioned him in another interview where
Yes.
you were talking about how he kind of basically made you condense your thoughts
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness.
onto
Okay.
one sentence.
This is, yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because this is somebody who definitely changed my life. So when I was younger, high school, I was bright and I was motivated, but I had a lot of ideas. I didn't have a lot of times in the writing side of it, the structure of how I would get those out, because I was already writing pretty big idea stories, from 9 years old, 10 years old. I'm writing these stories, but they were just sometimes so big that nobody could really understand them. And I turned in a paper in ninth grade once, and this is in regular, regular English, you know, ninth grade English. I turned in this paper, and my teacher was just like, I really, really enjoy your stories. They're so exciting. You're full of these big ideas. He says, but I want you to do something for me. He's like, just read this page that you turned in and stop when you get to the first period. Right. So I start reading this thing, and I'm going on and on and on. And the period came at the end of the page,
Wow.
like a full page of writing, and only one punctuation mark, a period at the very end. And he said, you see what I'm saying? He's like, you gotta put periods and punctuation in at some point. You have to give us time to breathe and absorb some of these ideas. And so he said, listen, right now that your grade on this is not a passing grade, but if you will be willing to go back and rewrite this paper, and I don't care if it makes coherent sense, I don't care if it, is all perfect, as long as you keep to one idea per sentence, I will give you an A+ on this paper.
Wow.
That's all that mattered. And so I went back and I like redid the whole thing, and it was hard for me. That was hard.
Mhm.
I found myself trying to put, I was putting 3, 4 ideas, and then, because this, and then because I was like, you can't say this one thing to them without letting them know this and this, and then he thought it, and he was going to go over there because he knew that he could do, and it's like, no, just say that he went to the end of the driveway. Period. Once he reached the end, he looked left and right. Period. You see what I'm saying? It's like simplify. And I did that. He gave me the A+, and I basically turned from having like a low C in that class to ending that with an A+. And that was literally the turning point that I switched into going into honors English and AP English, and actually turned out to be, like a fantastic writer, which was not something that I would ever have associated with myself with before that. I just thought of, I thought I was pretty good at math and science and, pretty geeky, but I didn't know of myself as like good at communication. And so he actually set me on that path to realize that I actually could, do that pretty well. So yeah, thanks. That was Mr. Baker, actually. I just remembered his
Mr.
name.
Baker.
It was Mr. Baker in ninth grade. Yeah, he did it.
Wow. It's interesting that he kind of said, okay, I need you to just condense all of this into one thing. They're phenomenal ideas, but you need to condense it into one thing. And oftentimes when you see writers that are not really seasoned, they want to tell you every single thing that's going on, and they're leaving nothing to the audience's imagination. You're not allowing me to get fully, invested in this story because you're telling me everything that the character is going to do from start to finish. And where the hell's
Yeah.
the fun in that? Because sometimes you want to sit and you want to watch and you're like, oh, I know what's about to happen. But when
Right.
you're telling every single thing, you're taking the fun out of it. And it's like, okay, am I watching a movie or am I watching painting by the numbers? But that's great. And I have a similar story because English was my subject in school. I loved it. I
Yeah.
had advanced English all throughout high school. And but when I was in middle school, I would always get caught reading in class.
Mm.
And one day my
You
teacher said, I
bad,
want
you
you to
bad kid. All that
yeah,
reading, right?
yeah. But
Yeah.
my teacher made me stay after class one day, and everybody was like, "Ooh," thinking something bad was going to happen. And he said, "Okay, you can't read in class anymore." He said, "But I see how much you love it, so I'm going to do something for you." And he handed me a book on Greek mythology,
Mm.
and that was the end of it.
Woo.
Because I'm a big science fiction geek myself. When that
Yeah.
world opened up, I said,
Wow.
"Oh my God,
You're like, let's
this stuff,
go.
Darian." It was like this stuff actually exists.
Mm.
So teachers are so if any teachers are watching, thank you so much because you do such an amazing
Yes.
job. You
Yes.
really do. Now with that, so you move forward, and for your first foray into filmmaking, you decided to shoot a full-length feature film.
Man, Floyd, you paid attention, brother. You I give you credit because you were paying attention. And bro, you know what? The funny thing is, those two stories are highly related.
Hmm.
They're very related because they really do show kind of like my personality is always like I go as big as possible first. I shoot big. You know what I'm saying? And you have to actually pull me back to realize, oh, we need to pull back a little bit, right? And that was the thing. It was like I've been writing these screenplays. I knew I could write, because now we're flash forward. I've done screenplay classes. I've put my screenplays into award things. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know if y'all remember, but Kevin Spacey actually used to have a thing called Trigger Street, and Trigger Street was like a website similar to like Project, the thing that the those guys do,
Green
Matt
light.
Damon and Ben Affleck, Project Greenlight, and these type of things
Mm,
where it's like, and the Blacklist, to be honest, now the Blacklist, where you're outside the industry, but it's trying to give you a window to where you could get into the industry, submit your thing, and then whatever. So I had two screenplays that at one point were number one in the science fiction genre on those
mm,
sites, and those were my two most popular screenplays, in the beginning that I had written. They at the time one was called Illuminati. I've changed the name since, but one was called Illuminati, and I was making. That's a story I actually at some point will still make. But it was a story about like a technology take on the Illuminati, where it's not a society that's necessarily so much based exclusively in like money and clandestine meetings and power. But what
mm,
they do is they try to just stay ahead by staying on top of all the technology. So like you, Floyd, let's say you were you got a garage experimental lab that you're working on something secret or whatever, and you come up with a breakthrough. They've kind of got eyes everywhere, right? And as
mm,
soon as they catch on to somebody who's more than 5% ahead of like the rest of the world, they'll basically like snatch you up and recruit you in. But it's not like in a way that you would, it's not in a, it is nefarious, but it's not deliberately nefarious. So
Mhm.
basically they're going to kind of game you, right? They're going to position things around you to kind of put you in scenarios and see what decisions you make, and then kind of lead you toward them. But anyway, the main character, this one, Gene, is his name by chance. Black guy. I was really proud to write, my very first, big character, as a black guy who's a science guy. He's top of the genetics and biotechnology community. He's like a superstar and everything like that. But he's the guy who kind of gets tapped. And so what he all has to go through in that process of being identified by this group that never sleeps, lives forever, and will stop at nothing. They move faster, they think faster, they never sleep, and they'll stop at nothing to maintain the secrecy of their privacy and their privileged existence. So that was that film was at the top of that one. I had that option to come. People love that film, and there were so many options where it had been optioned and picked up where it was going to move into production, but then
Mhm.
other circumstances, industry related type of stuff where, this there, didn't go through, the stories. It's nightmare to try to get your film through the entire process. But that's what made me want to be a director was actually going through that process with my scripts, and the frustration of not having any control over all these weird things that happen. You know what I mean? And like my thing had been optioned, right? The Illuminati one. We were in pre-production on it. We were like
Oh, wow.
actively getting this thing ready, but it was very much dependent on the success of the prior film that the production company had done, and
Mm.
they went and screwed that film all the way up, so that it put the company out of business. Floyd, like literally, literally, the film prior did so poorly that the
Wow.
company basically shut down, and the director who was the head of that company, he went back and picked up a bunch of music video projects in order to pay off some of the debts that he had incurred, setting up these projects, and
Damn.
that was it. So yeah, that's the kind of thing that I'm glad for those experiences, because it let me know early enough on that I am the type of person who I would prefer to take more control of my projects and
Mhm.
be the director as not just the writer. Yeah.
So where is that film now? So the one that you actually ended up shooting.
Yeah. So the one. All right.
What what
So
what did, what did you do with it?
got it. So that film. So now, so that was kind of the backstory to show you that at that point I had a good level of confidence with my film, with my writing, right?
Right.
So I felt at that, because I did a long journey before I decided to direct, right? It was like I was doing that writing, the option stuff that I was just telling you about. Then I took the two best scripts at the time. I wrote novels out of those.
Hmm.
Those novels are available on Amazon to this day. And I sold a lot of copies of those novels, and I actually used so that money from those sales to actually finance moving into film, right? So that first project I did, I was using that book money, and I basically went straight for a feature, because I was like, I can write the feature. I'm a badass, you know what I mean? And I never, I had shot a little music video, like I had done that, but like I was just like, let's just go, full green screen. I built a green screen cyclic in my apartment, out of the dining room. I went and put these boards on the wall. I painted green. I made the curved corners. I had everything. I had put the dots, the little markers, all this other stuff. But what I didn't realize was my computer couldn't handle 4K footage and doing all that green screen stuff. My
Mm.
little MacBook Pro 2013. I was like, and it was just ignorance. You know what I mean? It's just like ambition overweening kind of ambition, and just, taking the fact that I was very confident about the writing part, but I knew
Mhm.
nothing about the filming part. It was just very, very over the top. But I wouldn't change it for the world, because the people I met a lot of people that are still my good collaborators to this day on many projects. A lot of the actors I have on there, I've worked, like that actress from Mommy, who does she does the crawl at the end.
Okay. Ooh, a
The
good
reason I met
call.
her, yeah, bro. I met her because Amy Maylu. I met her because of Escape Room. She was in that, and I met my good friend Eben Jones, who's my boy to this day. Unfortunately, he's moved out to L.A.
Mm.
Doing his acting thing and everything like that. But Eben, those are people I met on that very first project, and I'm still friends with them, and I still work with them to this day. So, it was ambitious, but it was delicious. It makes, you know what I
Okay.
mean? Yeah,
Ambitiously delicious.
ambitiously delicious, man. So to answer your question about where it is now, we shot it. So we shot the whole thing. It's all on green screen. Every scene has green screen, and I wasn't involved in visual effects at the time. I had no idea of anything related to visual effects. So it's in the can. So I mean, I do think this is a film I will revive now that I'm further along and I'm actually, pretty advanced in the visual effects side of things. So I think it's a film that'll come back and people will see it. Yeah.
So now wait a minute. Because I know, as you said, you're heavily into visual effects now, but you
Yeah,
weren't back then.
that's
So
right.
what made you decide to do green screen? Was it the type of film, because of the type of film that it was, that you said it would be better
Yeah,
if I
it
did
was
it
like
green
because I
screen?
knew I was into sci-fi.
Okay.
So it was like my sci-fi ambitions is what brought me to visual effects. So it was like I was writing stuff and I wanted it to have that sci-fi look that I was so in love with from watching and and envisioning this stuff. But I had literally no skill or any idea. Like even the idea of like making that green screen wall, I looked all that up on YouTube, right? It was all like,
Mm,
well, if I want them to be in this like future, because it's called Escape Room. So it's basically like a futuristic version of an escape room where it's all like the sci-fi escape room, and it was supposed to have like these like kind of like digital electrified walls keeping them contained. So it's like a contained thriller, and then they would have to solve these puzzles to like different than an escape room. They solve puzzles in order to basically survive the next round, right? And so these people are dropping off one by one by one, and
mm,
nine will enter, but only one will leave. That
mm.
type of thing. So yeah. So I mean, it's just a pure idea of ambition of wanting to have those visual effects and wanting to have that, but not any kind of clue of how hard it actually would be to actually produce that level of visual effects.
So after you guys shot it and you found out that your MacBook Pro at the time could not handle the 4K resolution, did that um, kind of take you in a direction that you said, I need to learn how to actually do this? So if this situation comes up again, I know exactly what I need to do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It started me in that direction of thinking, how do I do this stuff? Because I knew that the level of budget that it would take to do what I wanted to do was far beyond anything I would have been able to pay anybody. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
My daughter's in school, in private school here in Atlanta at the time, and all this other stuff. Those bills just keep going, right? That stuff
They
never
do not
stops.
stop.
Yeah, my dreams are moving in this direction, but guess what, the bills are still, the bills are moving right
Bills
along
don't
with
care
them.
what kind of dreams you got.
They care. The bills don't have dreams, you know what I'm saying?
No, the
So
bill's like, that's nice. Now pay me, please.
now pay me. I have a dream that you pay me right now. So so I knew I had to do things in a low budget way. And so that's where, that film is all favors, right? Shout out to Reed Steagall, shout out to um Philip McEnroe Rakesh, who helped me, just get through that and everything like that. But though that led me down the path of like, how do I get it done? You know what I mean? On a lower
Mhm.
budget. And so, but I said, you know what, let's do a smaller film first. Let's figure out how it's really done. Oh, okay, you make a short film. And so I did a 48-hour film festival that year, which got me into that process. And then I did Hop later that same year. So that feature was at the beginning of the year, and Hop was shot in November of that same year, within that first year. Yeah.
So that's interesting. This is a gentleman that I listen to because I'm heavily into personal development. Gentleman by the name of
Yeah.
Ed Milet. Ed
Mm-hmm.
Milet always talks about things don't happen to you; they happen for you. So now,
Mm-hmm.
although that film didn't come to fruition the way you would have liked, it led to other things, and those, and I want to talk about that because you've made some pretty dope short films, and besides this feature film not working out and kind of taking you to another direction, what was the process, and how did you come up with the ideas for each one? Because Pony, Mommy, and Hop were amazing films. And I really have to commend you, Darion, because as someone who had a film festival and I have a virtual film festival and I've judged a lot of films. And the one thing that I listen to first and foremost is sound.
Mm.
And your sound on
Yeah.
all of those films was absolutely amazing. And I'm just sitting there watching those films saying, damn, this is some good sound. So what was the thought process behind each of those films? Because they were absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you, man, and shout out to sound, and that's the other aspect of the story that I don't share as much on Clubhouse. But I actually ran a music studio in Atlanta
Mm,
for a number of years after getting out of college. So I was producing, I had a kind of a for hire studio where you would come in there, rent studio time, and then put down your rap song or your R&B song that I did a lot of people's demos, and also sometimes a lot of times they would come in and I would have these CDs of tracks that they could do their demos over. Like a lot of times they might not have the music, but they want to show off their voice or do whatever. So I was supporting them a lot. So that piece of it is still part of the story that is coming along with, but a lot of people on Clubhouse haven't really heard that story that much because I've been really actively focused on the film side of things, since that's more of a, I feel like I'm more in catch up mode on the film side, whereas
mhm.
music is something that I felt more confident with from having the studio and doing all of that. But that history, I'm so in love with sound. I mean, I feel like it is 60% of the storytelling experience. If you literally give me a choice of high quality sound or high quality cinematography, and I can only choose one, I will choose sound and I won't even think about it. And the reason I believe that's true is because I know that Orson G. Wells was able to scare the shit out of like half of America, making them think that aliens were invading the country with
Through a
no
radio.
visuals, just pure sound, just pure radio. So if he could invoke that type of emotion with just pure sound is where it's at. You know what I mean? Like Mommy has. I spent so much time on the sound design. Like, you don't know how much it warms my heart for you to recognize that, because I'm sitting in there looking at all the little sounds and all the little ways things like, yeah, because it's really, yeah, I know that that's what moves people in the end.
Yeah, because again, listening to an interview that you were doing, I think it was with Ching, and you're talking about language versus feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes, sir.
I'm a big proponent of language, but when you were the way you were explaining language versus feeling, this kind of goes into that. Because when I was watching Hop, there's not a lot of dialogue, but that background music really
Yeah.
set the tone. The background music and the lighting really set the tone. So you can really convey an emotion through sound. Basically, what you were saying, that you can
Yeah.
convey an emotion through sound. And that's why when you score a film, it's so important that you score it correctly. Because how many
Yeah.
times have you watched a sci-fi movie where what's the name of that sci-fi? It was a sci-fi horror movie, Event Horizon,
Event
one of
Horizon.
my
Yes.
favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Shout out to
Lawrence
Lawrence
Fishburne,
Fishburne.
yeah, and
Yes,
he's
the
walking through the
G.
ship, but he's not saying a word, but
Right.
he's hearing all of these sounds. That
Yes, sir.
film, I'm a grown, all right, ladies and gentlemen,
It's
I'm a grown
scary.
ass
That
man,
film is
but that film
freaking
scared
scary.
me. That's a sound.
Imagine if that happened to you and you're on a spaceship. You can't go anywhere, Floyd. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can't just be like, okay, I'm ready to go home. Turn this, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's scary, man.
It is. It is. So again, and then so let's talk about Mommy. But before we do that, I want to talk about Hop.
Yeah, yeah.
The end of the film. I don't know if you can share what happened to him.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is so funny. So the end of the film is totally different than what I planned, right? And Hop, I would say, is a very, very it's very planned to a very highly detailed level. Like I would really went into the shot listing and the pre-production and the colors how I wanted them. And like I really spent a lot of time preparing that because I was on the backlash of this feature, you know what I'm saying, that I had never gotten to complete. So I kind of felt like I had to prove something to myself and to the world with Hop. Okay.
Okay.
So I was kind of shooketh. And I was like, I gotta nail this, right? So I'm doing all this effort. And I totally had the intention of cutting to the view of what he was seeing. Right.
Mm.
And it's still the funny thing about it is the closest thing I've ever seen in film to it is Tenet. So I'm very, very enamored of time, like the idea of time moving forward and moving backwards and doing all this at the same time. So I was gonna show what the drug was having him see in the room.
Mm.
But when I got into the edits and when we got onto set, this brother, Joshua Quinn, who's somebody I worked with multiple times at this point, I will always work with this dude. He is
Mm.
just he is an improv actor. He's become one of the Dad's Garage players. For those who know Dad's Garage in Atlanta, he worked his way up and joined that crew. He's so good at improv. Just an aside, Floyd, but like Joshua Quinn is so good at improv. I've seen him do an improv knockout one Saturday night where they start with 10 improv players in Dad's Garage, right? And they get scene after scene, and then they have to basically knock each other out. And the
Mm.
audience gets to vote by claps each time which one wins that particular scene. And so through the course of the night, you see them in all these different scenes. They get points, they get eliminated one by one. And then until the point that he was one person standing, just two improvers left standing, Joshua and somebody else. And Joshua, now for the most part, we're laughing our asses off the whole night because it's improv comedy. It's funny as hell. They're just going off. They're like unchained, right? But this brother on the final one, he gets his prompt, he gets his situation, and he had to play with himself. So they said you're gonna be, it's a breakup scene, and you have to play the boyfriend and you have to play the girlfriend.
Oh wow.
Right? So that was the setup. So we're all thinking this is gonna be hilarious because this guy has been making us almost split our pants laughing the whole evening. He gets on there and he goes full drama, bro. Like he doesn't break character. He hops from one seat to the next and tells about, like, I don't know, I don't even remember, he can't even try to remember all the stuff he was, it was like, I've been trying to relate to you, and it just seems like our love language is on a different level. I'm sending you messages that don't seem like they're getting received. And then he goes back on the other side. I've been receiving those messages, but it's like my heart is so hurt, and like he just does full drama. And I'm thinking it's gonna be like a button or a joke at the end, right? That's just gonna tie it all off. And he doesn't ever break. He stays in the drama. And I look around at the audience and I see this row of women watching at the front. They came out, it was like clearly girls' night. They came with like 7 or 8 of them, right? These women are all in tears.
Mm.
They are all in full-blown tears. And I'm like, this is a comedy show. And at the end, he stands up, no standing ovation. They don't even basically even do the judging at the end because it's
Right.
so
What's the
obvious.
point?
Like,
The other guy's like,
You know, like just give it to the brother, you know what I'm saying? Because right now my heart's hurting, you know. You know, but anyway, that shout out to Joshua Quinn. He's the star of Hop, you know, and so at the end, Joshua, um, he does this thing where he's practiced like keeping his body still, and
Mhm.
he like holds his breath. And I'm the kind of director where if I see some shit going down that even if it wasn't planned, I'm gonna just keep the camera rolling, right? So I'm keeping this camera rolling, and everybody in the on the set is like, "The fuck is going on with Joshua? Like, is he actually alive? Or like, it's been like 2-3 minutes, and this brother hasn't actually breathed. Yeah, he's not breathing for like 2-3 minutes. Like, bro, I'm telling you, like that time that it's on there is almost you almost really how long he stays like frozen like that
Wow.
without moving. At one point, the actress reaches over and does something to his eye, and he doesn't move. He
Mm.
doesn't move. Like she goes like this and pulls his eye to try to look in his eye to see, are you okay? And he doesn't move, bro. So I don't know. It changed the weight of what he did. I was like, it would not make sense at this point for me to cut to some random ass high tech, you know, trying to be all like blah blah blah. I'm gonna stay on this brother's face, and that's how we're gonna close the movie, you know. So that was it, and yeah. So actors can change, you know what I'm saying? They can change, definitely influence the way a movie ends. But
So
as far
so
as
so
like
that's
what happened to him, I kind of left that open. It's more like
okay.
it's definitely an effect of the drug, and something in the drug is like fucking him up. But as far as
Mm.
like what it actually is, I kind of just leave that open to
Okay,
interpretation.
so it could be okay. See, now my mind's racing because it could be anything because he could have hopped into somebody and he's experiencing a
Trapped.
murder or anything,
Yeah,
or yeah,
that's
he's
that's
trapped.
exactly what I wanted to
The
leave it.
person left
Yes,
because
100%.
you know what? I just thought of
100%.
something.
Yeah.
Let's say, for instance, that the drug has a particular distance that you can't go
Mm.
beyond,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
if you go beyond that, who
You can't get
excuse me,
back.
whoever hopped can't get back. So the
Right.
person you hopped into, they jumped in an Uber and they
Right.
left.
And now they're now you have to try to get close enough to them to try to get the person back. I like that a lot. But without knowing that that's even the issue, you got to first figure out what the issue is before you even know. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love
Wow.
that. Yeah.
See,
I
that's the
love the
beauty of
discomfort.
that's the beauty of creation, ladies and gentlemen, because as you know what, sometimes this is a phenomenal point that we're on right now. Because sometimes, again, leaving it up to the audience is a good thing. Because just like we're having a conversation right now, this could be a conversation. So they're trying to figure out what happened. And guess what this does, ladies and gentlemen? This plays into if you are the creator and you want to shoot a second film, crowdfunding. You want to know what
Yes.
happened in the first one? I'm about to go crowdfunding for the second one, and we would love to have you on board to help us bring this about. You got to think outside the box like that. And,
That's
and and
right.
it's crazy because I just had that thought just now sitting here talking with you about it.
Yeah. 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 And if I do sometimes feel like movies that are too closed that leave nothing. So what are you going to talk about at the end? You know, it's like,
Mhm.
oh, well, he clearly died at the end. He died. Yep, he died. You know, now, I mean, it could be like that, but like, even if it is a pretty clear, what about like what's going to happen to the daughter after that? Or what's going
Mhm.
to happen at his job? Like, are they going to get a replacement? Is his wife going to be able to recover from all of what they went through? At least give something for people to talk about, right? Like,
Yes.
when I go to movies, I like to walk out and I like to be able to have conversations, you know?
Yeah, that's beautiful. So now I have a question about something that you do on Clubhouse because you have some absolutely phenomenal rooms on Clubhouse, but one room in particular, 1 minute film school.
Mm.
How did you come up with the concept for that? And why do you place so much importance on the film being only 1 minute in length? And I've watched some of the films, and if it's a minute and 1 second, it can't, it's not up for an award. It's got
That's
to be
right.
1 minute and 1 minute. So
That's right.
talk about that.
Yeah, it has to do a bit with discipline, right?
Mhm.
You know, this filmmaking thing. I've had some discussions. I won't say arguments. I'll say the words discussions, right? But I've had discussions with folks online about, you know, the subjectivity of film. And while I believe that it is a subjective art, it's a creative art. It's subjective in general. There are many aspects of it that are not subjective, right? Like if I watch two films, and one film the sound mix is shit, and the other film the sound mix is well done, to me that is an objective criteria, right? That sound mix is not as well done as the other one, right? It's not like, oh well, that's just everything's just an aesthetic choice. You know, there are things that are just not as well done. And you know, I think that the problem with film is a lot of people come into the film industry thinking like it's all foo-foo, and that you can kind of just do whatever you want, and that is validated by virtue of the fact that it's creative art. But there are a lot of things that are discipline oriented in film that can ensure that you communicate effectively every time out the gate. You know, storyboarding, or shot listing and storyboarding are a couple of those things, because I don't know any filmmakers who storyboard their films and make crappy films. I
Mhm.
haven't met them yet. Now, that doesn't mean I might connect with their story as much as somebody, you know what I'm saying? That you can't guarantee. Like the level of emotion that somebody will take out of it, that's going to be the subjective, right? That's the subjective part of it. But as far as like me communicating something effectively, like if I need to know if Floyd is coming in, and I need to know that Floyd took that drink of orange juice that the killer left for him, you see what I'm saying? Like I need to know that. You know what I'm saying? Like if you to communicate that story, if you never show the glass on the table and you never had that shot, and now all of a sudden Floyd is like this or whatever like that, I'm not gonna know what the fuck is going on. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And you do watch a lot of films where certain jumps are made or leaps in logic, and you be like, I don't really know where did that person even come from? You know what I'm saying? So I that part of it, there's a certain discipline to it, which I believe is more so objective, right? And that if you can master a lot of those objective things, you can get to the level of your subjectivity being able to be expressed. But if you can't get those objective things, you never get there. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? If like it's almost like it's like with writing a screenplay. That's why screenplay format, like I don't like to put like too much attention on screenplay format, but you do need to go ahead. Like once you got that thing written, you need to go through it and make sure the format's right, everything is spelled properly, that you're following the discipline. Because if not, people will never be able to get to the part of the luscious whatever you wrote in there, because they're going to be
Right.
so bogged down by all your formatting issues. They'll be like, why is the dialogue on the left side of the screen? Like, what are you doing? You know? So that's why the 1 minute. It's like, tell your story in 1 minute. If you were directing a commercial and you needed to deliver it to the Super Bowl, do you know those people are paying like $6 million for that 30 seconds or however much the people? I don't even know what it's up to now. It's some ridiculous number, but they're paying $6 million for 30 seconds. So how much now? That extra 3 or 4 frames that you think you could just go over on 3 or 4 frames,
Mhm.
that extra 3 or 4 frames is $25,000.
That's money.
You know what I'm saying? So like you just have to have that strictness about it, and know that you're in control of your craft. That if a minute is enough, you know what I'm saying? Like you should be able to tell that in a minute, and you don't. That's it. You know what I mean? So, and it makes people sharper. It makes people sharper. It makes them understand that maybe they don't need as much time in that middle part
Mhm.
that they thought they did. You know what I'm saying? But the second thing about it is I believe if somebody can master a minute, they can master 90 minutes. You know, that's
Yeah.
just my belief. A lot of the directors that you see out there that are doing consistently well, there are a lot of directors that have like up and downs, right?
Mhm.
Like they'll tell one story. You can tell they were really passionate about that and got it all together. But then they might do two films that kind of not really so much. And then they'll hit again with something else that they're really excited about. But the directors that tend to be consistent, a lot of them come out of commercials. You know what I'm saying? You think about like Ridley Scott, right? You think about like F. Gary Gray, right? From Set It Off. He came out of music videos and commercials. You think about even Antoine Fuqua from Training Day. He came out of music videos. You see what I'm saying? Like they all came out of formats that were like very time limited. Like you can't go over the time frame. And David Fincher, you know, he also came out of commercials and music videos. You know, Michael Bay, a lot of people like to hate on Michael Bay, but I think he's one of the best doing what he does. Like, you know, I'll go ahead and put that on record. Like, I really do think that Michael Bay is one of the best action directors of all time. You know, like, sure, he's not going for the Oscars. Sure, he's not, you know, fine arts of like, you know what I'm saying? But as far as like you go into a movie and him entertaining you, like
that, you're gonna get entertained.
You gonna get entertained, bro. He's gonna blow enough stuff up for you to keep your eyes on the screen. And I saw Ambulance last year, and I loved Ambulance with Yahya Abdul-Mateen. And
yeah, that was a movie.
That movie was tight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm like,
yo,
Michael Bay is still doing it. And he had that little 19-year-old drone pilot that he hired to come in and do. They had drones that were going under the cars and doing all this stuff. So he stays, you know, on the cutting edge and everything like that. But a lot of those people, they all came out of commercials, and they all came out of, you know, they all came out of short form, right? They master the short form, and now when they do big, longer form, it's easy for them because, you know, they know how to make sure every minute on screen counts. So that is part of the reason that I'm focused on that. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal played in that movie with him, and Jake Gyllenhaal
was the guy. Yeah, I was looking for that name.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I have a couple more questions, but Monica on the mic asked the question, and she said, I'd love to know if there are any upcoming projects that you can tell us about. I was going to wait to the end of the show, but you know what? Why not now? So what are you working on right now?
I'm cooking up some, so the next big project for me, it's time to do a feature again now. We're back. Okay. We've come full circle. We've done enough of the shorts. We've done enough. I've done 1-minute projects. I've done commercials. I've done music videos. It's time for the feature. It will definitely be science fiction, and it will definitely be with a lot of the latest cutting edge technology that's out there in the film industry right now. A lot of you may know, if you're in my rooms on Clubhouse, or if you're in any space with me for more than 10 minutes, that I tend to be on top of like what all is going on in technology as it relates to film specifically. So things like Unreal Engine, things like AI art, Midjourney, you know, Blender, all of these things that are like pushing the envelope on new tech. I do tend to stay all over that stuff because I'm always looking for ways for me to be able to tell my stories that are larger than life, but within the realms of life budget. You see what I'm saying? Okay. So that, like, if people ask me, why are you a multi-hyphenate? Why did you get into visual effects? Why did you get into being a cinematographer? Well, a lot of that's just because by me knowing that I'm a cinematographer and knowing that I can do these things, I can do them if I need to. And if I need to save budget and keep the budget down, but still get a high quality result, I know that I can hop in there. You see what I'm saying? So it really is out of the drive to be able to tell my stories and not be restrained by the fact of like somebody telling me, oh, you don't have money to do this, so you can't do that. I mean, if I want to have explosions in my movie, I know how to make explosions. You know, that I went to school for Houdini, which is the top end software for making explosions. So I can do destruction, I can do explosions, I can do fantastical magic, I can do all of these different things that typically an independent filmmaker would not be able to do. And so that is because I want to stay in a place where, you know, if I want to have a spaceship that crashes into a building or whatever like that, I don't want to ever be in a place where I can't do it because it's impossible. I want to be able to. That doesn't mean I'm just going to randomly put stuff in there, because that shit still takes a lot of time, right? So even if I'm doing it myself, you know, these are typically done with multiple teams, you know, and all that kind of thing. So I will try to pull back and keep it manageable, right? Because that's the new wisdom that I learned from going overkill with some of the early projects. But the point of it is I want to keep it indie. I want to stay in control of it. I'm a control freak now because of my, because experiences I've been through. And so I'm not really out there rushing to look for like a lot of money from big financiers or anything like that. This micro budget or nano budget project, I will likely do it completely on my own with no financing from anyone else, so that it sets me up for the next project where there probably will need to be financing, right? But I want to be in a better negotiating position, by having my own project, that it's you can say like, look, this is not you gifting me anything or whatever like that. You see, I've done this one project. It was done for almost nothing, and it did all this blah blah, but whatever it did, I don't know what it's going to do. You can't control, but it's going to do something, because whatever I make is gonna it's gonna have some kind of an impact on somebody, because I am going to make something that I'm happy with. So if I make something that I'm proud to look at, that I will watch myself, like that's my whole criteria, is like, if I'm making it, if I saw this on Amazon, would I buy it and watch it? Like, that's my whole thing, right? It's like, would I pay $7.99 or whatever, or $9.99 or whatever it would cost? And there's certain things that I will just buy. Like, I know from my own habits, right? I scroll through Amazon and I buy independent films. Like I do. Like if it's, people have their triggers. Like some people are triggered by romance. Some people are triggered by comedy. Some people are triggered by like action, violence and action. They like that gritty. And some people want the family stuff. And I'm triggered by sci-fi, right? So it doesn't matter if it's low budget or whatever, but if it looks like it's well done and it deals with like clones, for example, right? If it deals with biogenetics and like clones, bro, I'm telling you, if you put a movie about clones on Amazon, I'm buying it. I'm gonna watch it. Oh, wow. I'm gonna buy it because I love clones. I think they're clones walking around right now. Like I really do. Like I believe in that. And so it's just like anything about exploring that idea that there might be somebody out there that looks just like you, that somebody cloned. And then you walk around and you see another Floyd Marshall, and you're not supposed to have seen that person because they separated you. You know what I'm saying? But you're traveling, you're in London somewhere, and you see this dude, and he looked just like you, and you're like, hell, what the hell going on?
That's a striking looking dude.
That's what. Yeah. You're like, what? Yeah, we're like, dang, and so like I just am obsessed with that idea. I wrote a couple of short stories. I have a character called the Broker, which I want to make into a film at some point. But I wrote a series of short stories, which they were out for a while, and that kind of like pulled them back. They're not out where you can see them now, but the Broker is a character who, at the time, I think I wanted it to be played by Kerry Washington. So she was, Kerry, if you're out there, I got a story for you. But anyway, it was inspired by her. And the idea was that this character lives a very private life, right? But she gets called when people want to make a clone of somebody for whatever reason. So it's like let's say that you wanted to clone, I'm trying to think of somebody who might be a little bit hard to get to, but for some reason and she doesn't ask any questions about why you want that clone. That's the reason people call her, because it's like, obviously it's illegal, but then she will find a way to get access to their DNA somehow. She uses all these secret like stealth techniques, kind of almost like an assassin, but instead of trying to kill somebody, she's just trying to get enough sample of their DNA to take back to her lab and make a copy of them. Wow. You feel me? Yeah. People pay her millions for that. You know what I'm saying? And so so that the Broker is like this character that you guys will definitely see me. I've written 3 short stories about her, and I plan to make her into a thing at some point. But that's not the next project. I digress. But the project that I do will be a nano budget project with the latest technology. I might do something that's related to space. We'll see, but it'll be something that I can shoot without having to get finances from somebody else.
Wow. So Monica said you would love, or maybe you've seen Orphan Black.
Oh my God. Orphan Black. Oh my God. Like I can't even speak. I love
Did I get you started?
Black. Trevor Yao is the composer who did the music for Orphan Black, and I go back and play the theme song to the final episode of season 1. There's like a 7-minute track. It's available on YouTube. It's available online, and I play that almost every time I'm starting a new writing project. And that music is one of the tracks that I have like a playlist of, your music composition, music scores that I play while I write. And that song is right there on that from Orphan Black, because that show is Tatiana Maslany, who plays in that, is, she'll forever be, like an icon for me as an actress. Yeah.
So is that on Netflix or?
It should be on. Dang it. Because Orphan Black kind of came out pre-Netflix. Like I feel like it came out.
Oh wow!
Netflix. Yeah. It's been
really?
around for a while. Monica might know better than me exactly where it's playing, but yeah, I've watched it. I've watched it probably at least 10 times straight through all seasons.
I'm gonna have to find it.
Yeah, it's really good, Floyd. It's really good. Yeah. Okay. I mean, she won multiple Emmys for it as well. Yeah.
Wow, I'm definitely going to have to find that. Well, we're almost out of time, and I don't want to keep you. I did have a few questions, but I'm going to ask this one.
Yeah.
Clubhouse. How has Clubhouse, because we met on Clubhouse, a lot of the people that have been on the show, I've met through Clubhouse. A lot of the amazing relationships that I now have, I've met through Clubhouse, and I developed and cultivated through Clubhouse. So how has Clubhouse changed your view of collaboration and how relationships are formed? Because I knew you said something regarding Clubhouse that initially you were a little leery about it, but once you got, and rightfully so, because you're talking on the phone with people you've never met, and you kind of form these relationships and these friendships, and and especially at the time that Clubhouse was really big. Yeah. So I think some people were forming relationships that, for lack of a better term, weren't really real, but it felt good. So
yeah, because we were in like a collective depression, basically.
Right. So
it was like one of the moments in life in the world where everybody's kind of suffering some form of depression, because anything that you had planned, anything that you had envisioned, any life plans that you had, for the most part, got thrown out the window for most people. Like there was no planning. You couldn't tell me, like the movie industry was like ground to zero. Like, can you imagine, like, the whole movie industry? Like there were people in the movie industry who never knew if the movie industry would ever recover. Like, you know what I'm saying? And even if it did recover, would they be alive, or, you know what I'm saying, to even recover with it? Because, I don't know that many people who can survive for 2 years with no income. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I was fortunate during COVID. I could have been real messed up emotionally, because literally right leading up to COVID, I had just, so 2019, okay, flashback to 2019. My daughter is one of the most important people in my life to me. And I had taken her out to SIGGRAPH, which is a big computer arts and animation festival that happened in LA that year during the summer. And at that time, she was, between sophomore and junior year in college. And my idea was take her out to this big, cutting edge technology festival, animation arts, and she would be able to like meet people. Like Disney's out there, Pixar's out there, like all the major players are out there. So we're out there, she's getting numbers, she's getting cards, she's, but my whole thing is like inspire her around the technology and get her some network people to follow up with for potential internships for the following year or whatever. So we're out there, but lo and behold, I'm the one who get inspired. Because at this point, I had clients for VFX and for editing and, things like that. But I was very indie with it, right? It was just however I could figure out how to do stuff was what I was doing. But when I saw some of the new technology, like Houdini, for example, and some of the other stuff, I was like, oh shit, I need to do a formal training to catch up to speed. You get what I'm saying? Because I was like, whatever I thought was going on, there's a lot more going on. And it's too much for me to just on my own. So I was like, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and shift all of my everything. Like, I'm going to just, empty my house, get rid of all whatever, and I'm going to go full time training on VFX for a certain period of time so I can get into the mainstream part of the VFX industry. So I did that, and I moved out of my house, and I made it so I didn't have to work for a period of 6 months, and I signed up for Lost Boys School of Visual Effects, which is in Montreal, to study Houdini full time for a 6-month period. And so I went up there and I did that, and it worked. Like, I got hired. I was the first person in my group, in my class, to get a job offer. It was the first place I interviewed, immediately gave me an offer that was Digital Domain. And my start date was March 16th, 2020, right? Which was 3 days after I was supposed to graduate. So I graduated on March 13th of 2020, a Friday. And my start date at Digital Domain was going to be March 16th of 2020. Now, we all know what the heck happened in mid-March. I mean, bro, the timing could not have been like, they hired me at the end of February. So I still had 3 or 4 weeks before my start date. In February, we didn't really know COVID was going to be a thing. But within those few weeks in March, it really became a thing, like a big thing. And the next thing you know, I'm like, they wouldn't approve my visa, Canada, because they're like, we're on essential visas at this point. If you're not bringing in natural gas or oil or water, you visual effects, you trying to get a visa to do what? Nah. So that wouldn't go through. And so at some point I the lockdown extended. It wasn't a 2-week thing like they thought it was going to be, and became a bigger thing. So I had to come back to the States. But anyway, the whole point of it is that turned out to be good for me, because I came back to my roots in Atlanta, where I know a lot of people, and there were people doing independent projects, and I got pulled onto that independent film, Curse of La Patasola. And we made that film during COVID. Yeah, we made that film during COVID, and it was written for COVID. Like, it was written to be able to be shot with only 4 actors, right? Down in Florida. We made a COVID bubble, right? We shot it for like, $250,000, and we sold it. We sold it to Vertical Entertainment, and it went to theaters, and it's on Hulu now. And that was during COVID. So that is what kind of kept me going. Like, the hope that created for me, you see what I'm saying? Was like, oh shoot, all is not lost, because I lost this big job offer or whatever like that. And it turned out to be something better, because now I got to work on something that was like, I had more ownership of. I mean, I didn't own the film, but I mean, I was VFX supervisor. So it felt like I really had an influence on the film.
Right.
So that turned out to be great. And then on top of that, I still ended up working for Digital Domain. She hired me a year and a half later, once the industry picked back up. She was like, hey, I know it's been blah, 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 but we're rehiring again. The industry's starting to come back or whatever like that. And I haven't forgotten about you. I really would still love to have you come on board. Okay, it's a year and a half later, but hey, now I work for Digital Domain, and I just made staff like a few weeks ago. So I'm like permanent staff. Yeah, I made permanent staff. I work in Atlanta.
Benefits.
Though I have I got benefits now. And by the way, for anybody who's interested in working for Digital Domain, we are hiring in all kinds of different fields, and we are hiring out of Atlanta now as of this year, because of Tyler Perry, because he set up his studio to be able to shoot during COVID, and was able to make that deal with Disney, Marvel, to help get Marvel movies shooting again. That is the reason, and my company does a lot of Disney Marvel movies, right? So because of that, they have extended their deal with Tyler Perry Studios to continue the Disney Marvel relationship. And that means they're going to be shooting in Atlanta for like foreseeable years. And so because of that, Digital Domain went ahead and established a payroll center in Atlanta, which is why I'm able to stay in Atlanta. I don't have to move for my job, which we thought. So, yeah, lots of good news and everything, but also lots of good news for my friends. Everybody who's in Atlanta who's trying to get in and work at Digital Domain, hit me up, y'all, because I'm trying to get, it's the time. Let's get in there. You know what I'm saying? Let's make some stuff happen.
And don't direct message me because I know Darion talking about can you give me the friend hookup at digital whatever. I'm like, no, you have to contact Darion. Don't do not go in my DMs, please. Somebody will be messaging me like, yo, Floyd, can you get a proper hookup? No, you need to send him your resume. You need to go through the proper channels. Don't do that.
Go through
Don't
the
do
channels,
that.
bro. Go through the channels.
Yeah,
Yeah, y'all can hit me up. Don't hit Floyd. Hit me up because I do want to get my people on for real. Like you've heard me say this in the room lots, Floyd. It's like the visual effects industry is like a backdoor to the film industry. Like you can get in because like we are hungrily hiring people, and there are not enough people who pay attention to visual effects. They all pay attention to like being PAs on set and working camera and being grips and gaffers and stuff like that, which is all good. That's valid. That has to happen. But everybody knows that path. So you're competing with like the whole world. You see what I'm saying? But VFX, people don't really pay attention to that side of it. So if you are willing to just put a little bit of attention and figure out what's going on that side of things, we can get you in here. And it doesn't mean you have to be like super technical or super artistic. Like we have VFX coordinator roles, right? We have PAs too. Like we have all different types of, so if you have some editing skills, or if you just have project management skills, or you just, that type of person, we can get you in here somehow. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, just, and you'll probably progress a lot faster because trust me, VFX is used in every single film nowadays. It's not, I don't care if you're making like a drama about one person in one room. You know what I'm saying? If that movie is going on a big screen as a thing, it probably has some visual effects in it.
Wow. That is amazing. So guys, that's another avenue that you can approach to getting in this business. It's great being on the red carpet, but there are plenty of people making an amazing living in this industry and you never see them. You see their work, but you never see them. And the only time you really do see them is when you're watching the credits roll.
That's right.
Those are jobs. Those credits rolling are jobs.
You see how many jobs there are, right? You see, yes, that's actually, thank you for that, Floyd, because that's a good way to explain what I'm trying to explain to people. Watch the credits, watch how many jobs there are for on set. Because those are the first set of credits are people who were on set. And then it switches over to visual effects and it goes.
They get like 3 rows.
They get 3 rows and they're trying to come up with ways to fit all the names in there. So that shows you that the visual effects industry is hiring more people than just being on set. It's literally more bodies needed. So that means that there are more opportunities. You see what I'm saying? So y'all trying to get in the film industry, come on in through VFX. You know what I'm saying? And get in where you fit in, and visual effects people get paid pretty well. So that's the other thing, right? You're not going to be like, if you know a little something about visual effects, once you get a few credits under your name, you're in a pretty good position. You're not really in a situation where you have to wonder where your next job is coming from, because you'll have 3 or 4 companies reaching out to you at any given time because they know once you got that 1 or 2 projects worth of experience, you are set, unless there's a COVID pandemic. I mean, yeah, it's not exactly there. It's not going away unless the whole industry goes away. Visual effects isn't going anywhere. It's only getting stronger. So, yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, you have been given a master class. I love having these types of guests on because the beauty is you learn a lot and I learn a lot. That's why I absolutely love doing this. And Darion, you're definitely going to have to come back because there are so many questions that I did not get to ask you because I really want to dive into artificial intelligence and chat GPT. But I'm going to save that for another episode because I know that's going to be an entire episode. So we're definitely going to have you back on when you come up for a breather because I know you're doing some amazing things right now. But any closing remarks before we head on out?
Yeah, I would say, just go for it, folks. Like, you know what? It's like one life. This is fun. I know that people get like nervous, trepidatious, and this is like your hopes and your dreams and this, that, and the other. But it's like I've made a lot of mistakes, you know what I mean, in this journey. And I feel like it didn't, it doesn't really it's no big deal to make those mistakes. You know what I mean? Because it's like if you make mistakes trying to do the thing that you love doing the most, you're just learning and getting better. And you know, I mean, like you're gonna make mistakes anyway. Might as well be toward this industry or towards you trying to do this thing that you dreamed of. So don't worry about everything being perfect or anything like that. Just try your best, but don't half-ass shit either, though. Okay, because like that shit's not gonna work. You're not gonna come in here in the film industry and half-ass some shit and think you're gonna be like the next Michael Jordan. You know, Michael B. Jordan. Um, by the way, I am going to see Creed. I'm glad you kind of like had a good time on this because I am scheduled to go see Creed 3 in about 40 minutes.
I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see that.
You said what?
I can't wait to see that. I cannot wait to see that. I got to see that fight. That's gonna be a good one.
That especially with Jonathan Majors playing the villain in this one, like
that's gonna
what? There's gonna be some electricity on screen. Anyway, I'm really excited about it, and I'm about to go see it right now with a few of my friends, and we're really excited about it. But my point is you know, you're not gonna be on the red carpet with Michael B. Jordan if you have fast some shit, bro. Like you see who he aligned with, him, Ryan Coogler, that they're a posse. They got their whole thing going on, but they're killing it. They're killing it, and I don't want that to scare anybody. You know what I'm saying? Because I do believe that you can make mistakes on the way to that, but those mistakes should be made out of you trying your best. So you're trying your best and you're making mistakes. That's different than you just half-assing it and you're failing. You feel what I'm saying? So just try, folks. You know what I mean? And guess what? When you try, people see that you tried. Like if somebody tries around me and I see them trying and they're going about it the wrong way, you know what I'm saying? I'll grab them by the collar and I'll be like, hey, young brother, you know what I'm saying? Man, I see your energy, I see what you're doing, but maybe point your efforts in this direction, and you might, you know what I'm saying? That's what we got to do for each other, and we're all going to be like, we are in the heyday. Like this is a time that's amazing. Like if especially if you're Black in America, I can't speak for everywhere around the world. I don't know what the experience is everywhere. I'm pretty sure there are a lot more opportunities popping up though in a lot more places because of streaming, internet, tools that make it more accessible and everything like that. But just speaking from my perspective as a Black American, right? Born in New York City, raised in Atlanta, Georgia, having seen the movie industry come to Atlanta because it wasn't here when I was growing up, right? And having seen us become the #2 city, right, as far as revenue and what the amount of movies that we work on, we surpassed New York. No offense to all the New Yorkers, you know what I'm saying? I was born there, but you know what I'm saying, Atlanta, we're past there, right? So my point is to see that happen out of nothing and to see Black people thriving. I live in the city where Tyler Perry Studios was started. You see what I'm saying? I saw him fighting some of the white folks who at one point, I'm sorry, Floyd, this is a little aside.
No, please.
But like, so I went to the Lovett School, right, which is like a high-end white private school here in Atlanta. And that school is in the middle of Buckhead. And when Tyler Perry was coming up, he bought the property across the street from my high school, right? And he was trying to get the whole corner because there's a river there, and then there's East Paces Ferry, and Paces Ferry. So he was trying to get the whole corner, but he had like this piece. So he bought around the corner, but he had one person who was holding out, who was a plastic surgeon who didn't want him, just was holding him out just because of who he was. You get what I'm saying? Like it's like Tyler Perry was offering him like $1 million more than the value of his house. And the dude was just saying no, just to be, you know what I mean? Just to be like, not let him have what he wanted, basically. So that's the type of city that I grew up in. And the thing is, but we own this city now. You know what I mean? It's like to see it go from something that is very antagonistic towards people who look like me to a city where in the movie industry, at least, we can thrive. Like we are thriving. We have studios. We have studios that were built on plantations. You know what I'm saying? And they're owned by somebody Black. You get what I'm saying? And now we're making our own wealth and we're doing all of that. I've seen that happen. And so what I'm saying is, yeah, there's still challenges, but we are in the most inspirational and motivational time for people like us and all people, really diverse. Because I think about myself and our color, but I also think about other people, because I want to live in a world where everybody can express themselves, because that's actually better for all of us, right? And we are there now. Like, you can do these things. Like, I've literally, my conversations with writers who consult with me now, like I was on the phone earlier with a friend, a Clubhouse friend actually, and he's like, well, should I be writing this in this way? It's got these visual effects and it's got to be. And I said, you know what? This is 2023. What I would have told you 2 years ago isn't the same as what I'll tell you now, which is write it the way you want to write it, and then let's look at it, because we might be able to find a way to actually do it. It's possible nowadays. So I'll leave it with that, Floyd. I get excited. I get hyped about this stuff, but I feel like there's no better time to be in the film industry. You know what I'm saying? Because this is a can industry at this point. It is turned from a cannot, and we're going to keep you out to everybody can get in, and everything is possible. Yeah. So
that was beautifully said. And it is a can industry, but you definitely have to do you got to put in the work.
If you put in the work, it's a can industry.
Yo, it's a can industry, and you can't approach it you cannot approach this with a half-ass attitude.
Yeah,
because as Monica said, people in higher positions in the industry love to help you when they see you giving it your all. And if you just do it and you stick with it and you develop habits and you develop another C word, which is consistency. You got to be consistent. You got to be consistent. You just can't do it one day and say, I don't feel like doing it today. Even when you don't feel like it, you got to do it. That's why I always say I prefer discipline over motivation any day of the week, because motivation to me is like 5-hour energy. Motivation is like 5-hour energy. You get motivation is the first week in January when everybody goes to the gym. Discipline is June on a Friday when it's 80 degrees outside and you in the gym in a squat rack. That's discipline. And not a lot of people have that. They have a lot of motivation. Right. Oh, I saw you January, but I don't see you in June. Where you at?
Motivation is when you first meet that person and y'all are so flirty. Right. I love you and I da. Discipline is 6-7 years down the road, and are you still making plates for each other? Are y'all still like, you know what I'm saying? Are you still like, you know what I'm saying? That's it. Passion is not gonna get you in a long-term relationship, bro.
No. I know we got to get out of here, but I've been married for 35 years.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Player. Even if you come at me with 7 years, if you come in at 7 years, I'm like, you still in the honeymoon phase. Please don't come to me with no complaints with your 7-year ass. I don't even want to hear that. 7 years. What's wrong with you? Come on now. But I get your point. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us for the last hour and some change. We truly enjoyed having you here, and I hope you have enjoyed this. Yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this as much as I do. If you have, please make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Algorithm. And if you like the episode, please share with your friends, because the one thing that I love doing is having people share knowledge, and you definitely got some knowledge on this podcast. And Darion, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. You definitely have to come back and create the culture. Don't consume it, ladies and gentlemen. Just like this gentleman is doing, he's creating the culture, but he ain't consuming it. He's creating it. And you can do the same thing, just like he just laid out. It is just go ahead and do it. And on that note, as I always like to say, love this like a hobby, ladies and gentlemen. But above all else, treat it like a business. And again, thank you guys so much for joining a conversation with our amazing guest, Darion. What's that last name?
D'Anjou.
And we didn't even talk about where that last name originated. We got to do that on the next
show. We're going to do all of that. We're going to do all of it. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Floyd, you're the man, bro. Yes.
Thank you, bro. Truly appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, have a phenomenal night.